It never arrives with a warning. You can be brushing your teeth, lying in bed, staring at your phone in complete silence, and then, out of nowhere, it hits you, a moment from years ago. Something small, something you thought you forgot, a sentence you said wrong, a laugh that came out awkward, a time you stood when everyone else stayed seated, a joke that landed in silence. Your chest tightens, your face feels warm, your body reacts as if it just happened, even though it didn't. It happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, sometimes even longer. You don't want to remember it. You didn't ask to remember it, but there it is, sharp, vivid, painfully clear. And the strangest part is this: it always shows up when you're calm, when nothing is happening, when your guard is down, when your mind is quiet. That's when it attacks. This sudden remembering of embarrassing moments is so common that nearly everyone experiences it. Different cultures, different ages, different lives, and yet no one ever teaches us why it happens. We laugh it off, we cringe, we distract ourselves. But deep down, we wonder the same thing: why does my brain do this to me? Why does it replay the worst moments instead of the best ones? Why now? To understand that, you have to stop thinking of memory as a recording and start thinking of it as a warning system. Because your brain does not remember things to entertain you. It remembers things to protect you. Long before humans had language, homes, or cities, survival depended on one thing above all else: belonging. Being accepted by the group meant safety. Being rejected meant danger. Early humans didn't worry about embarrassment the way we do now, but they absolutely feared social mistakes. Say the wrong thing to the wrong person, violate an unspoken rule, draw negative attention, and you didn't just feel awkward, you risked being excluded. Your brain evolved to treat social mistakes as threats, not physical threats, social ones. And the brain does not forget threats easily. That's why embarrassing memories are not stored like ordinary events. They are tagged, marked, highlighted. Your brain says, "This moment matters. Do not repeat this." So it keeps the memory close, closer than birthdays, closer than compliments, closer than success, because success feels good, but failure teaches faster. When you suddenly remember something embarrassing, your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to remind you, this is what went wrong. This is what almost cost you acceptance. This is what we must avoid next time. The problem is, there often is no next time. The situation is over. The people have moved on. The world forgot. But your brain didn't get the message. To your brain, time is unreliable. Emotion is not. Strong emotion burns memories deeper. And embarrassment is one of the strongest social emotions humans feel. It combines fear, self-awareness, shame, and the sense of being watched. That cocktail tells the brain, store this permanently. So years later, when your mind is quiet, when there is no noise to distract it, the brain reviews its files, not randomly, strategically. It pulls up moments that still carry emotional charge, moments it thinks might still protect you. That's why these memories feel intrusive, because they don't come from conscious thought. They come from a deeper system, older than logic, a system that doesn't care whether remembering hurts, only whether remembering helps you survive. And here's the unsettling truth: the reason these memories feel so vivid, so alive, so painful, is because your brain still thinks they matter, still thinks you might need them, still thinks the threat is real, even when it isn't. In the next part, we'll go inside the brain itself, not metaphorically, but biologically. We'll see exactly which parts activate during these moments, why your body reacts before your mind, and why your brain chooses those memories instead of thousands of others. Because once you understand what's happening inside your head, these moments stop feeling random and start feeling inevitable. Your brain reacts before you do. That tightening in your chest, the sudden heat in your face, the urge to physically move to shake it off, those reactions don't come from thought. They come from a system that operates faster than logic. Deep inside your brain, there is a network designed to answer one question: am I safe right now? And surprisingly, embarrassment triggers that system almost as strongly as physical danger. When an embarrassing memory suddenly appears, several regions of the brain activate at once, not gently, urgently. First, the emotional alarm center lights up. This is the part of the brain that reacts to threat. It doesn't care if the threat is real, remembered, or imagined. If something once felt dangerous, it treats the memory as if it's happening again. That's why your body reacts. Your heart rate changes. Your muscles tense. Your breathing shifts. Your body prepares before your mind can object. At the same time, the memory center becomes active. This area doesn't store memories like files in a cabinet. It rebuilds them every time you recall them, each detail, each sound, each feeling. And because embarrassment was emotional, the reconstruction is intense. That's why the memory feels sharp instead of distant. Then another part of the brain joins in, the one responsible for self-awareness. This is the region that asks, how do others see me? How do I appear? Did I fail socially? This is what separates embarrassment from simple mistakes. Embarrassment is not about what happened. It's about how you believe you were seen. And the brain treats perception as reality. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Your brain does not replay embarrassing memories to punish you. It replays them to evaluate you. It asks, have you changed since then? Are you safer now? Would you behave differently today? If the answer feels unclear, the brain keeps the memory active. Not consciously, automatically. This is why some embarrassing moments fade quickly, while others return again and again. The ones that repeat are unresolved. Not in the world, in you. And your brain uses repetition as a tool. Repetition strengthens learning. That's why musicians practice scales. That's why athletes drill movements. And that's why the brain replays mistakes, especially social ones. Because social survival has always depended on learning fast and adapting faster. But there is a flaw in this system. Modern life no longer works the way the brain expects. A single awkward moment today does not exile you from the group. A strange comment does not end your survival. But your brain hasn't updated its rules. It still operates with ancient logic. Logic shaped by small tribes, limited connections, and constant social monitoring. So when you suddenly remember something embarrassing while lying in bed, your brain is running an old safety check. It's scanning for unresolved threats, and silence gives it space to do that. During the day, your attention is occupied. Tasks, noise, movement. But when things slow down, especially at night, the brain shifts modes. It stops reacting to the outside world and turns inward. This inward mode is designed for reflection, planning, and memory review. It's efficient, but it has no filter for kindness. It doesn't ask whether a memory is fair, only whether it is useful. And usefulness, to the brain, is defined by emotional intensity. That's why compliments fade. That's why praise disappears. And that's why embarrassment lingers. Because embarrassment feels like a lesson that hasn't expired, even if it should have. The more you try to push the memory away, the more attention you give it. And attention signals importance, so the brain marks it again, keeps it active. This is why saying "I shouldn't think about this" rarely works. Because the brain hears, "This matters," and stores it accordingly. But here's the part most people never realize. The memory is not replayed because you are weak. It is replayed because your brain is highly social, highly sensitive, highly protective. Your brain is trying, clumsily, to keep you safe, even if the danger no longer exists. In the next part, we'll go further back than biology, back before modern brains, back into evolution itself, to understand why embarrassment became such a powerful force in human survival, and why forgetting it was never part of the design. Long before embarrassment was a feeling, it was a signal, not an emotion meant to hurt you, but a mechanism meant to protect you. To understand why your brain clings to embarrassing moments, you have to imagine a world where every human connection mattered, and where one social mistake could change everything. Early humans lived in small groups. There were no strangers. No anonymity, no second chances. If you were rejected, you didn't just feel awkward. You lost food, you lost protection, you lost survival. So evolution shaped the human brain to treat social errors as serious threats. Physical pain taught you not to touch fire. Embarrassment taught you not to break invisible rules. These rules were never written. How close to stand, when to speak, who to challenge, when to stay silent. Breaking them didn't always lead to violence, but it led to exclusion, and exclusion to the ancient brain was a death sentence. That's why embarrassment feels so intense. It activates the same deep systems that respond to danger. Your brain learned something very specific. If you feel this sensation, do not repeat the behavior. So it stored those moments aggressively, not as neutral memories, but as emotional warnings. This is why embarrassing moments feel bigger in your mind than they ever were in reality. your brain magnifies them, because in the past, magnification saved lives. And that leads to a crucial insight. Your brain does not measure embarrassment by logic, it measures it by social risk. That's why a tiny mistake in front of strangers can feel worse than a major mistake alone. Being seen matters. Witnesses matter. Even imagined witnesses matter. The brain doesn't care whether anyone actually remembers what you did. It only cares that someone could have noticed. That possibility is enough. As human societies grew larger, something changed. We gained anonymity. But our brains didn't evolve fast enough to recognize it. So now, the same system that once protected us in tribes is activated in classrooms, meetings, online comments, and casual conversations. And it misfires a lot. Your brain treats a harmless social slip as if it just endangered your place in the group. And when it's quiet, when nothing else demands attention, the brain revisits those moments to make sure the lesson sticks. That's why embarrassing memories often come with a physical urge, a wince, a sudden movement, a sharp breath. These reactions aren't random. They're remnants of a system designed to interrupt behavior, to stop you, to force attention. Your body reacts as if to say, remember this, don't do it again, even if there is no again. And here's the part that feels cruel but isn't. The more socially aware you are, the more likely this happens. People who care about others, people who are empathetic, people who think deeply about how they're perceived, their brains are finely tuned to social signals, which means their embarrassment memories are stronger, not because they are fragile, but because they are socially intelligent. That's the paradox. The very trait that makes someone thoughtful also makes them vulnerable to memory replay. But evolution had no reason to care about comfort, only survival, and embarrassment worked. It kept humans aligned, cooperative, predictable. It reduced conflict, so the brain kept it, even when society outgrew the need for it. In the next part, we'll uncover why your brain doesn't just remember embarrassment, but chooses the worst version of it, why it replays moments with exaggerated clarity, and why neutral or positive memories almost never interrupt you the same way. Because once you understand that selection process, you start to see embarrassment memories not as failures, but as overprotective instincts that never learned when to let go. Your brain is not fair. It never promised to be. It does not choose memories based on truth, balance, or kindness. It chooses them based on impact. And impact to the brain means one thing: what left the strongest emotional mark. That is why embarrassing memories are rarely accurate replays of reality. They are intensified versions, sharper, louder, more humiliating than the moment ever truly was. Because your brain does not store experiences like a camera, it stores them like a highlighter. The more emotion a moment carries, the thicker the ink. When something embarrassing happens, several emotional signals fire at once: surprise, fear, self-awareness, loss of control. That combination tells the brain, this is important, preserve it. So it does, but it doesn't preserve it neutrally. Each time the memory is recalled, it is rebuilt. And reconstruction is not passive. Details that match the emotion are amplified. Details that soften the moment are discarded. The brain zooms in on faces, on silence, on imagined judgment. And over time, the memory becomes worse than the event ever was. That's why you remember embarrassment vividly, but struggle to remember compliments. Compliments don't carry threat. They don't demand correction. They don't warn you of future danger. So the brain lets them fade. Embarrassment, on the other hand, feels like a near miss, like something that almost went wrong socially. And near misses are powerful teachers. In survival terms, a near miss is more important than success. It tells you what to avoid, so your brain holds on to it tightly. There's another reason these memories feel intrusive. Your brain organizes memories by relevance, not time. That's why something from 10 years ago can feel closer than something from last week. If a memory still carries emotional charge, the brain treats it as unfinished business. And unfinished business demands attention. That's why these moments don't appear randomly. They often show up when your mind is idle, when there is no task to focus on, when your internal systems take over. In these moments, the brain performs a kind of internal audit. It scans past experiences asking, is there anything unresolved? Anything that still carries risk? And embarrassing memories answer loudly, because they feel unresolved even when they are resolved externally. The world moved on, but your brain didn't get proof that it was safe. No formal closure, no clear signal saying this no longer matters. So it keeps the memory available, just in case. And there's one more uncomfortable truth. The brain assumes that if you remember something clearly, it must be important. So when an embarrassing memory reappears vividly, the brain takes that vividness as evidence of relevance, which creates a loop. The memory appears, it feels intense. The brain marks it as important, so it appears again. This is not self-sabotage, it's miscalibration, a system tuned for survival, not peace. And the worst part? The brain often exaggerates how much others noticed, how much they cared, how long they remembered. In reality, most people forget quickly. They are too busy replaying their own moments. But your brain doesn't measure reality, it measures perceived risk, and perceived risk is shaped by emotion. That's why even harmless moments can feel catastrophic in memory. Because embarrassment is not about what happened, it's about what could have happened. And the brain treats potential danger almost the same as real danger. So it stores the memory as a warning, a reminder, a lesson, even if the lesson has already been learned. In the next part, we'll explore why these memories almost always appear at night, why silence makes them louder, and why trying to sleep seems to invite the brain to replay the past. Because the timing of these memories is not accidental. It is built into how your mind shuts down and opens up at the end of the day. Night changes how the brain behaves, not slowly, not gently, but completely. When the world grows quiet and your body begins to rest, your brain does something unexpected. It turns inward. During the day, your mind is busy reacting, solving problems, responding to sounds, managing movement, filtering information. But at night, that outward focus fades. And when it does, another system takes control. A system designed for review. This is the state where your brain organizes memories, connects experiences, and checks for unresolved emotional signals. It is efficient, but it has no sense of mercy. When external stimulation drops, no conversations, no tasks, no distractions, the brain fills the silence. And it fills it with whatever carries emotional weight. That's why embarrassing memories rarely interrupt you in the middle of a busy day. They wait. They surface when there is nothing to compete with them, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, scrolling without focus. This is when the brain's default mode activates. This mode is responsible for self-reflection. It asks questions like, who am I? How do others see me? Did I do something wrong? And because embarrassment is tied directly to self-image, it becomes a prime candidate for replay. There is also chemistry involved. At night, stress hormones drop, alertness fades. The mental filters that normally suppress intrusive thoughts weaken. So memories that were pushed aside during the day gain access. Not because you invited them, but because the guard fell asleep. That's why trying to force your brain to stop thinking rarely works. Silence doesn't quiet the mind, it exposes it. And embarrassment thrives in exposure, because it feeds on attention. Another factor is stillness. When your body stops moving, your brain becomes more sensitive to internal signals. Small thoughts feel louder, minor emotions feel heavier. A memory that might have passed unnoticed earlier suddenly feels intense. Your brain isn't being cruel, it's switching into maintenance mode, reviewing, sorting, evaluating, and it prioritizes emotionally charged memories because they appear unfinished. Embarrassment doesn't feel resolved, even when you know logically that it doesn't matter. The brain doesn't run on logic during this state, it runs on emotion and association. That's why embarrassing memories often arrive with physical sensations. A twist in the stomach, a sudden shiver, a sharp exhale. Your body reacts because the brain temporarily treats the memory as present, not past. And this leads to one of the most misunderstood parts of this experience. You are not regressing. You are not weak. You are not stuck. You are witnessing a normal brain process, one that becomes more visible in quiet moments. Most people experience this. They just don't talk about it. They assume it's personal, a flaw, something wrong with them. But it's not. It's a byproduct of a brain that evolved to constantly monitor social safety. The problem is that modern life rarely provides clear emotional closure. We move on quickly. We distract ourselves. We don't process. So the brain stores the memory and waits for quiet, for stillness, for a chance to check again. In the final part, we'll confront the most important question of all. What is the purpose of these memories now? Are they useless relics of evolution? Or do they still serve a role in shaping who you become? And once you understand that purpose, these memories lose their power to hurt and gain a different meaning entirely. These memories are not accidents. They are not glitches. They are not signs that something is wrong with you. They exist for a reason, even now. Even in a world where embarrassment no longer threatens survival, the brain still uses it as a tool, a blunt one, but effective.
Every embarrassing memory carries information, not about what others think of you, but about what you value.
The moments your brain replays are rarely random. They often involve situations where your actions didn't match your internal standards. You spoke when you wanted to appear confident. You stayed silent when you wanted to be brave. You acted without thinking when you wanted control. The discomfort comes from misalignment, and the brain hates misalignment. So it replays the moment not to shame you, but to refine you, to say this is not who you want to be. Adjust. In that sense, embarrassment is a compass. Painful, but directional. It points toward growth, toward awareness, toward the version of yourself you're trying to become. That's why these memories often fade as people mature, not because time passed, but because understanding replaced uncertainty. When you finally accept who you were in that moment, when you understand why it happened, when you realize it no longer defines you, the emotional charge dissolves. And without emotional charge, the brain lets go. The memory becomes just another fact, not a warning, not a threat, just a moment. This is also why self-compassion matters more than distraction. Distraction only delays the replay. Understanding ends it. When you stop fighting the memory and instead observe it, without judgment, without resistance, without fear, the brain receives a new signal. This is no longer dangerous. And once the brain believes that, it stops bringing it back. The memory doesn't disappear, it just loses its urgency. That is the final purpose of these moments. Not to punish, but to teach, and then release. Embarrassment is not your enemy. It is an outdated guardian, still trying to do its job, long after the threat has passed. And the next time an embarrassing memory surfaces, in the quiet, in the dark, when no one is watching, you can recognize it for what it is. Not an attack, not a failure, but a reminder from a brain that evolved to care deeply about belonging, trying, awkwardly, to protect you. Once you understand that, the memory softens, the tension eases, and for the first time, you're no longer embarrassed by the past. You're simply aware of it, and awareness is where freedom begins. And even after all of this, your brain may still do it again. Another night, another quiet moment, another memory rising without invitation. But now, something is different. Now you know it isn't random. You know it isn't cruelty. You know it isn't weakness. It's familiarity. Your brain returns to these moments because they once mattered, because they shaped how you learned to belong, because they taught you where the edges were. And brains are conservative things. They keep what once worked, even when the world changes. So when an embarrassing memory appears, it's not asking you to relive it. It's asking you to recognize it, to see that the danger has passed, that the lesson has already been learned, that you survived. And survival to the brain is the highest success. The moment you stop running from the memory, the moment you stop flinching, the system relaxes, the replay loses urgency, the image fades faster, the emotional sting weakens, not because you forced it away, but because you finally understood it. This is why people who accept themselves remember less painfully, not because they made fewer mistakes, but because they stopped needing protection from them. Your past embarrassment is not proof of failure. It is proof of growth, of awareness, of a mind tuned to connection. And one day, often without you noticing, the memory stops returning. Not with drama, not with closure. It simply doesn't come back. Because the brain found what it was looking for: safety. So the next time your mind suddenly drags up something awkward, something old, something you wish had stayed buried, pause. Not to judge, not to resist, but to acknowledge. I'm safe now. And when the brain hears that, truly hears it, it lets go. Quietly, just like it arrived.